title of my presentation is Expanding the Game. And by expanding the game, I'm not talking about like the way the game was played by Clare 2 years ago, or that breathtaking draw between Kilkenny and Tipperary a few months ago. I'm talking about expanding the game to where the game is not played at the moment, expanding the game into non-hurling playing communities. And the goal of expanding our game should be to make it available to all families and all children in our beautiful county. As a representative of the people involved in the three Parnells, I feel well qualified to speak on this topic. When listening to the discourse about Kerry hurling, one often hears the lament about not being able to compete at the higher levels because of too small a playing base. Of course, there is truth in this, but a more effective and a certainly more motivating reason to expand the game is to tap into people's conscience by saying out loud enough to be heard how hurling and camogie, I'll just use hurling for the future, how hurling is a birthright which is presently being denied for many, if not most, of our children. The reality on the ground is that hurling is no different to any other foreign game. But in a way, me saying this here now is a waste of time. It's a waste of time because I'm saying it to the wrong audience. It's a bit like a priest telling my mother to repent. She's 84 years of age, she's a daily mass goer, she spends most of her time praying, and the priest in the Franciscan friar in Kerry is telling her to repent. The conversation, anybody who's here tonight is already a believer in hurling, and the conversation about expanding the game needs to happen with non-hurling playing communities. They are the correct audience to be involved in a discussion about expanding the game. And this brings me to my first and core proposal. At the risk of sounding too big for my boots and stepping on some toes, I am saying to those charged with the responsibility of leading the GA, in particular hurling in Kerry, to get out from the offices and the meeting rooms and to meet face to face with these non-hurling communities. Let them hear it stated out loud that we believe in the birthright of our children to hurl. And to follow up saying the statement with the simple question, do you want your children to play hurling? Practically, this means doing what we have just done here tonight. Book the local hall in Mid-Kerry, in West Kerry, in Castle Island, the Iveragh Peninsula, wherever. Advertise the meeting, invite in the local non-hurling community and get the conversation going about expanding hurling in that community. I asked the question, why has this not been happening? I don't believe hurling people are opposed to expanding the game. It seems to be more a case that expanding the game is unthought about. Expanding the game is rarely, if ever, enters into the discourse about Kerry hurling as a thought or a possibility. And if it does enter into the discourse about hurling, it's quickly crushed by what I believe are myths and self-defeating fatalistic beliefs. I should have no interest in hurling down there, they have no tradition down there, it'll never work, it's always failed. But by doing this, the hurling community are raising the white flag. And it's not the white flag of a score, instead it's the white flag of surrender. In turn, this surrender creates and feeds another myth, that hurling people are a greedy crowd, jealously possessive and wanting to keep all the goodness of hurling to themselves. They just won't share it and have no interest in expanding the game. This is totally at odds with the story of Tralee Parnells. As a parent, I wanted my children to have an opportunity to hurl and started by taking them up to the Heartlands in North Kerry. But as a result of the Tralee Hurling Initiative, our journeys up to North Kerry were no longer required. The Tralee Hurling Initiative booked the fields, advertised and invited parents to bring their kids along and come and try hurling for a few weeks. They provided coaches for these sessions. The kids loved it and the parents wanted it to continue long after its finishing date. We asked these coaches who were arriving would they keep coming, and they always did. I ask the question now, where is the Mid-Kerry Initiative? Where is the West Kerry Initiative? Where is the Castle Island Initiative? Where is the Iveragh Peninsula Initiative? Where are all these initiatives? They're not happening. And it's truly astonishing and baffling and self-defeating that no similar initiatives are happening today. Returning to the theme of raising the white flag of surrender, surrender is at odds with what is best in Kerry hurling. Our pockets of hurling are surrounded by and continually encroached upon by football and other sports, but Kerry hurling stubbornly refuses to go away. It has resilience and endures. Without this stubbornness, it would not survive. Regarding greed and being unwilling to expand, It is not greed and unwillingness that is holding back expansion. Instead, it is an insular and inward-looking behaviour. The competitiveness between the clubs, which is the very lifeblood of the Kerry game, simply overpowers thinking about expanding the game. In my experience, the generosity and the willingness of hurling people to give for the game of hurling is above and beyond the norm. It is important to remind ourselves that the non-hurling playing communities have amongst them hurling people. One of the striking aspects of being involved with the Parnells is the range of addresses of the children. Along with Tralee and its hinterland, there is Scartaglen, Curragh, Castle Gregory and Dingle. There's an old-timer in Milltown who each Christmas he pulls out his bag of old hurleys and helmets and he gathers the Milltown people together for a game of hurling, and they always turn up for it. And there's a young lad whose mother brings him up along with his sister from Carsavine to the summer hurling camp because he always wanted to play hurling. And then she looked at me with a sad look. There's nothing like that happening at home about it, she says. These are examples of what I call seeds. These seeds are waiting to be fertilised and nurtured along. This nurturing brings me to my second proposal. Throughout Kerry, there are efforts happening to expand the game. These efforts need to be nurtured better. I remember the years before Parnells started when we were hurling as the Gael club, and we're ever thankful to the Gael. The Tralee Hurling Initiative had succeeded in getting something started, and it is reasonable to expect a lot of excitement, support and encouragement from the hierarchy that at last there was an opportunity for children from Tralee to hurl. However, in truth, it was like we did not exist. We may as well have been playing rugby or soccer. I'm now thinking and wondering what it is like for the likes of Firys, Rathmore, St. Pat's, Kilcummin, Legion and many others. Neglected, these little seeds could die. Nurtured, they could survive. There are many ways of nurturing, most importantly sending in coaches, but it could also be facilitating a lot of home matches, avoiding drubbings, being adopted by an up and running club. But the type of nurturing that is needed for these infantile clubs cannot happen unless the people who created them are met with face-to-face, listened to, guided and support. This nurturing is the opposite of being ignored or fobbed off. On that note, allocating 2 full-time coaches to Kerry is, in my opinion, a fob off. After getting to know the hurling people, I've come to the conclusion that the ignoring that we experienced when we were in the Gael is a consequence of the inward-looking and insular nature of Kerry hurling. Kerry hurling is simply too preoccupied with what already exists, and it blinds them to seeing what could happen. To expand the game, we need to accept how it is shrunk into hurling pockets and is not available to all our children. To expand the game, it is good to remind ourselves that this is a human-created limitation. It's not like we are trying to swap Ratu, Tower and Lixna with the Skelligs or the Blaskets. Amazing changes are possible. Kerry won the Sam Maguire last year without the Gooch, Tomas Shea and that great hurler Paul Galvin. Croke Park stood in reverent silence to God Save the Queen before Ireland-England played in that historic rugby match. A man called Lee Chin is captain of the Wexford hurling team. The former Cork goalkeeper and Sunday Games analyst Donal Cusack came out in the Late Show about being gay, and in a few weeks' time we'll be asked to vote on whether Donal can marry the man of his dreams. This presentation, and indeed this whole forum, is an effort to nudge the dream, expanding the game in Kerry just a little tad closer to reality. Good morning.